Legitimacy. It might sound like a cold academic word pulled out of a law school textbook, but in that tense, Senate hearing it became the heart of the debate. One senator looked directly at Pam Bondi and asked her the kind of questions that slice through politics and force people to think about the very foundation of their country. Can we agree, he asked, that legitimacy matters to the justice system? Can we agree that if people believe that system has lost its legitimacy, the entire country faces a collapse in trust? Bondi agreed, of course, but the senator wasn't just stacking up yes or no questions for the sake of hearing himself talk. He was making a case, brick by brick, that America is standing on a dangerous edge, because legitimacy isn't a word that sits in isolation.
Yes.
Several years ago, he was a media star here in Washington.
An attorney, correct?
Yes. He was a media star. And many members of our media loved him because he persistently bashed Donald Trump. And he was on TV every day. He was on CNN more than Wolf Blitzer. Do you know where Mr. Avenatti is today?
I believe he's sitting in prison, Senator.
He's in jail because he was a crook. And the Department of Justice helped put him there, didn't it?
Yes, Senator.
Do you remember a gentleman by the name of Sam Bankman-Fried?
Yes, Senator.
Boy genius. So smart and so powerful that he thought he could command the tides. So smart and so powerful and so rich that he would go to meetings with serious people like Bill Clinton, like Tony Blair, looking like a slob, looking like a fourth runner-up to a John Belushi lookalike contest. And he thought it was cute. Where's Mr. Bankman-Fried today?
I believe he is in prison, and I believe that's from the Netflix series I saw as well.
Mm-hmm. Because he's a crook. And who helped put him there?
The Department of Justice, Senator.
Can we agree that there's some really, really good men and women at the Department of Justice?
Many, many great men and women in the Justice Department, as well, Senator, as all the law enforcement agencies that fall within the Department of Justice. They're out there risking their lives, especially the law enforcement officers, every single day.
Can we agree, though, that there have been and may be today some bad people at the Department of Justice?
Yes, Senator.
We don't know for sure because for the last 4 years, the curtains there have been tightly drawn. But I think a minority of people there, have delegitimized America's criminal justice system. The most destabilizing act that I saw in the past 4 years, maybe in the history of the department, is when Attorney General Garland decided on the basis of dubious facts and untested legal theories to criminally prosecute a former president of the United States. And not only that, this is the special part. He decided to do it after the former president of the United States had announced that he was going to run against Attorney General Garland's boss, didn't he?
Senator, are you referring to going after a political opponent?
I think so. Now, This is one person's opinion. That kind of stupid takes a plan. And I say that because, number one, this is America. That had never happened before in America. That's the sort of thing that happens in a country whose Powerball jackpot is 287 chickens and a goat. It doesn't happen here. And I call it stupid because it broke the seal. It broke the seal.
It's the glue that binds citizens to their government, the invisible agreement that says people will respect the law, not because it's always convenient, but because they believe it is fair. Strip that away, and you don't just have discontent, you have chaos. He called it exactly that, chaos. And when he said it, the word hit heavier than if it had come from a pundit or a headline. Because what he described was not some hypothetical scenario. It was the possibility that millions of Americans might decide that the laws they live under no longer deserve respect. And if that moment comes, no speech, no legal theory, no politician will be able to glue the pieces back together. To drive his point home, the senator did something smart. He pulled real examples from the headlines, names that once dominated television screens and magazine covers. He asked Bondi if she remembered Michael Avenatti. Everyone did. Just a few years ago, Avenatti was practically a permanent guest on cable news. He was celebrated, he was adored, he was called brilliant and fearless. Reporters couldn't get enough of him. He attacked political figures relentlessly and became a kind of folk hero for certain corners of the media. For a moment he seemed untouchable, but now, he's not smiling on TV, he's not strolling into green rooms, he's sitting in prison. Fraud brought him down. The same Department of Justice that once seemed politically entangled in endless controversies did its job and stripped him of his power. The senator's point was clear: the system can still work. No matter how much fame or media adoration someone holds, when the law steps in properly, accountability happens. Then he turned to another name that carried even more weight in recent years: Sam Bankman-Fried. For a time he was treated as the golden boy of the financial world. A supposed genius of cryptocurrency, whispered about in Silicon Valley, paraded across stages with world leaders, showered with praise by powerful allies. He was young, eccentric, and by all appearances unstoppable. He could show up to meetings with his hair unkempt, his clothes looking like they came off a clearance rack, and still be embraced as the future of global finance. But the story collapsed. The empire he built was exposed as a house of cards, and the money that so many trusted him with evaporated. Now, like Avenatti, he's not dining with celebrities or advising presidents. He's in prison, a fallen star who learned that power and image can crumble overnight when corruption is revealed. Two men, two meteoric rises, two spectacular falls. They were supposed to be untouchable, but the law still found them. These were the senator's examples, and they carried a blunt lesson: the justice system can still bite. But here's where his questioning twisted into something more alarming. Because as much as he praised the Department of Justice for going after high-profile fraudsters, he warned that those victories would mean nothing if the department itself loses credibility. He said it plainly: the DOJ has incredible people, brave men and women risking their lives every day to protect ordinary Americans. But alongside them there exists a smaller poisonous group, people who have twisted justice into a tool for politics, people who have made decisions not based on evidence but on power. And because of them, the system itself is losing legitimacy. The senator called this the most dangerous mistake of all, because once the public believes that prosecutions are political, the idea of blind justice evaporates. He went further, warning that some of the decisions made in recent years had broken the seal. They had crossed a line that America had never crossed before, and in crossing it they normalized the idea that powerful figures could be targeted not because of evidence, but because of politics. That, he said, is the sort of thing you expect in unstable countries, not in the United States. In nations where courtrooms are extensions of political parties, not independent arbiters of truth. In places where prosecutors pursue opponents one day and protect allies the next. Once that precedent takes hold here, he warned, the cycle of revenge will spiral out of control. And this is where his message became even darker. Because ambitious prosecutors are everywhere, in every state, in every party. Once they see that it's acceptable to target opponents, why wouldn't they do it? Today it may be one political figure, tomorrow it could be another, then another, and soon elections won't just be fought in debates or at the ballot box. They'll be fought in courtrooms, with prosecutors acting as weapons for whichever side holds power at the moment. That's not democracy. That's a slow-motion collapse of the rule of law. The senator described it like walking on a razor's edge. Every step could lead to a deeper cut. He pointed out that speculation already swirls constantly online. Rumors about leaders' health, their finances, their personal decisions, every whisper becomes potential ammunition. And if the justice system begins to weaponize those whispers, then every future administration is open season. The law stops being about evidence. It becomes a spectacle, a weapon, a game. And the people watching this unfold will no longer see justice as fair. They'll see it as corrupt. That's the danger. Because once the public loses faith, it doesn't matter how many fraudsters the DOJ catches. It doesn't matter how many scams are shut down, how many dangerous criminals are locked away. All of that work gets overshadowed by the perception that the system itself is rigged. And when that perception hardens, law enforcement officers who risk their lives daily are left carrying the burden of a system no one believes in anymore. The senator's prescription was clear. He said the Department of Justice needs to separate the good actors from the bad. Identify the people who work with honesty, fairness, and evidence, and lift them up. At the same time, expose the ones who use their position for political gain, and remove them from power. He warned Bondi that some would say two wrongs make it even, but that, he said, is a trap. It's tempting to believe that payback restores balance, but it doesn't. It only drags the system deeper into corruption. The only way forward is through fairness and truth, even when it's difficult. By the time he finished, the hearing room was left with a heavy silence. Because his warning wasn't about one politician or one party, it was about something larger. It was about the survival of the justice system itself. And he left everyone listening with a question that lingers long after the hearing ended. What happens if nothing changes? What happens if partisanship keeps driving prosecutions, if every case becomes a weapon, if every courtroom battle is viewed as political theater? The answer, he suggested, is frightening. People will stop respecting rulings. They'll stop listening to judges. They'll stop believing in the law. And once that happens, you don't have justice anymore. You have chaos. The deeper truth is that legitimacy isn't something you can repair overnight. Once it's broken, it takes years, sometimes generations, to rebuild. Every case has to be handled with fairness. Every prosecution has to be rooted in evidence. Every action has to prove to the public that justice is blind. Without that, no institution can survive. So the senator's grilling of Pam Bondi wasn't just political theater. It was a warning shot, a plea, and a roadmap all at once. Restore legitimacy now, or watch the system collapse tomorrow. Because once people believe the law is nothing more than a weapon in partisan battles, the rule of law itself is lost. And when that happens, America doesn't just face discontent. It faces a breakdown that no election, no speech, and no new policy can repair. So the real question is not what happens to high-profile figures, or which side scores points in the next hearing. The real question is whether Americans can still believe in justice itself. Whether the scales are still balanced, or whether they've been tilted beyond repair. Because if the people no longer trust the system, then legitimacy is gone. And when legitimacy is gone, the law itself becomes fragile. And maybe that's the hardest truth of all. Because once legitimacy is destroyed, it doesn't come back with the stroke of a pen, or the promise of a politician. It has to be earned back, step by step, case by case. The senator's warning left no room for comfort. If fairness is not restored now, the system won't simply weaken, it will collapse. And when it collapses, it won't just take down politicians, it will take down the trust of every citizen who depends on the law to protect them. So what happens next? That's the question left hanging. Will leaders find the courage to fix what's broken, or will America slide further into chaos? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain, legitimacy is not just a word, it's the lifeline of justice, and without it, everything else falls apart.